It's Sunday night, it's 8 o'clock, and you're watching Let's Kill Twitter with me, Julian Hall. This is the show that aims to detox your timeline with the art of conversation. Yes, a lofty aim, but luckily I don't have to do it alone. And joining me tonight are two fantastic guests, the comedians Kate Smurthwaite and Steve N. Allen. And as ever, I'm joined by another fantastic comedian. It's my co-host, Sajila Kershi.
Hey,
Hello.
hi Julian.
Hello, how are you?
Good. Been an interesting week. I hope you've had a one too.
Yeah, it's been pretty full on, hasn't it? I have to say. I'm really glad that Twitter had a bit of a moment last night. Like my timeline was basically split 50-50 between Strictly and Piers Corbyn, which is a slightly weird combination. It has to be said.
Oh, don't give me a spoiler because I haven't watched it, but I'm hoping it was the deaf girl.
I couldn't. Oh, hello to Martin, our regular viewer, has noticed that I've managed to promote you back to co-host this week. Yeah, cheers, Martin. Thanks for noticing. Last week's went right off script. I won't. No spoilers. No spoilers for Strictly. I didn't watch it. I can't do with that much joy and emotion in my life, quite frankly. I got enough of that from Twitter. Although what I did do last night was I did watch Desperately Seeking Susan for the first time in about 30 years.
Classic.
And there was quite a lot of Twitter chat on that, which was fun.
Yes, which is I know that I picked out a tweet because of course, Madonna was great then. She's great now, my view. But yeah, I love that film. Did you like it?
I totally do. Although, as I sort of pointed out on Twitter, that it's the weirdest thing that they had the money to sort of place so many personals ads, because those ads were really expensive. I seem to remember in the day. So it was like some kind of really slow burn Twitter, essentially. But it's fun. Yeah. I mean, and Madonna is just, I'm really glad you've chosen a Madonna tweet tonight, actually, because she is fab. Quite wacky, but still fab.
So we'll come back to the tweet that I probably picked around Madonna, but we should get our guests on.
Yeah, let's
introduce them.
Totally. Well, look, just before we do, I'm just going to introduce Steve, but just before I do, just to remind streamers that we're now live across Twitch, across Facebook Live, and across YouTube. Please do give us a subscribe on YouTube. That would be fantastic. That's where all our previous shows and clips are. And of course, crucially, please follow us at LKT Zoom. You can interact with us live during the show, and the rest of the time, that's where we're posting tweets, clips of the show, and news of the next shows, of course. So yeah, without too much further ado, let's talk about our guests. We've got the fabulous Steve N. Allen joining us. He started out as a chemist, but left the labs for a life on stage, telling jokes in comedy clubs across the country and at several Edinburgh Fringe comedy shows. Steve is a regular on BBC Two's The MASH Report, of course, and then on Dave's Late Night MASH, double helping. He's hosted the BBC topical comedy podcast Steve N. Allen's Week and co-created the online satirical show Comics Solving Problems with fellow comedian and previous guest on LKT, Erich McElroy. Steve is also a columnist for various newspapers across the UK and regularly appears on BBC and independent local radio stations. His book lasted another year despite a pandemic, came out in 2021. Time for a sequel, methinks.
Yeah, there's no way I'm writing a sequel to that one at all. No, the first book was about trying to survive the first part of it. I've just been in hiding since then. There'd been nothing to write down, just tear-stained pages. That's all I could offer.
Brilliant stuff. Sorry, Sir Judah. Go on, please introduce Kate.
No, I was going to say welcome, Steve. Let me introduce Kate as well, so that we get you both on and chatting about a little bit about yourselves. Welcome to Kate Smurthwaite. She's a left-wing feminist atheist, polyamorous comedian and activist. She's a host and star of News at Kate video series and performs stand-up comedy all over the world, including the UK. The most recent show, believe it or not, was this past year during the pandemic, The Last Mayor of Fialoawi. Received rave reviews for its run of the 2021 Edinburgh Fringe, including 4 stars from the mighty Chortle comedy website. Kate's broadcast credits, which literally I've seen her in everything. It's include Question Time, Newsnight, This Morning, Jeremy Vine, Women's Hour, the Today programme, and so much more. She's written a whole range of publications for a load of publications, including The Guardian, The Independent, The Telegraph, The Mirror, and This New Statesman. And not forgetting, she's also written for TV, radio, and web series, including Have I Got News for You and BBC Three's BAFTA-winning The Revolution Will Be Televised. Internationally, she's probably best known as the star of a viral video circulated under the name Atheist Bitch Slap. Please welcome Kate Smurthwaite, who's also an activist, by the way. Hello, Kate.
Please welcome you back to the tea room. Hello. Right.
Gosh, that took a whole breath to kind of get that. That's a lot. That's a lot of accomplishments there, Kate. Well, we're very well done testing my breathing.
I'm very old. Is the short answer. I've been around a long time, throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks.
So how is it in real life at the moment?
In real life, I mean, I'm all right. I don't think I'd really go for much more than all right. Like, I'm not. I mean, we just don't know. I've got shows all lined up. I was loving touring last Mayor of Fialoe, and I've got shows all lined up, but half of them getting cancelled. And so I'm just in a bit of a you daren't cancel other things in case your shows get cancelled. So then I'm doing my shows, and I'm getting up early in the morning and tutoring maths online and doing other things that I've been doing to just financially survive the apocalypse. And it's not the apocalypse, is it? Because we're not really surviving the pandemic. That's a myth. We're surviving Boris Johnson's incompetence. If he dealt with it properly the first time, we wouldn't all be here. So, I'm struggling to survive Boris Johnson's incompetence, as we all are. But, I'm still waving, not yet drowning.
That's true. And talking about, just picking up what you said about doing lots of things to try and survive financially. I know Steve and I met the other day, and we sort of spoke about this, having to put your fingers out in lots of pies. If you don't mind me asking, what have you been doing to survive this, like the pandemic times, as it were?
I mean, again, like everything. So yes, I've been doing some maths tutoring. I made an online comedy writing masterclass that I sell off of my website. I did some voiceover work. I'm the voice of a maternity nursing course. I know a lot more about latching than you really ought to for a woman who's made it to 46 without having any children of her own.
It could be a thing. It could be you might use it in, you don't know when you might need that.
You never know when you might need to stimulate milk production. Yeah. It could happen at any moment. And if it happens live on air during this show, you call me right away.
Can you stimulate alternative milk production as well?
Like you hitting rock bottom. Yeah. So, Steve, same question to you. What have you done the past, year?
I mean, there was a big stage when I didn't do anything at all, where I'd never been that unemployed ever in my life. So that was an interesting thing, effectively going back to my Mansfield roots by not having a job. But yeah, loads of voiceovers. For a short time, I was the voice of ITV's The Void, that game show that no one watched. So the sponsor credits in and out of that were me shouting about whichever company sponsored it. So that helped.
I love the idea that you're the voice of the void, like the voice of we need something that sounds like a gaping chasm. Yeah. We'll call Steve. He'll be able to do that. Like brilliant.
Yeah. Hey Steve, do you fancy working in a void? It's like, well, I'm working from home, so
yeah. Yesterday I did a voiceover for a Russian museum, which took way longer than I thought because, of course, there are going to be place names and people's names, and they didn't put a guide on how to pronounce stuff. So I was in the studio, which is also the shed, for about 4 hours doing that. So basically, speaking was the only way to earn a bit of extra money when I couldn't do anything else.
That's where your silken voice, your smooth voice is always coming in handy, isn't it? Never stops making,
right.
Steve. Never stops making.
Gravel in the shed.
In the shed. What about the Russian? I'm going to sound racist. Did you have to do a Russian accent?
No, I was the anglicised audio track for walking around this museum. Yeah. They might have thought that was me taking the mickey somewhat, so I kept it to my normal voice that they hired me for.
Very wise.
I did the maternity nursing course in Russian just to mix it up.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. There's a Russian theme. I had a dream about Vladimir Putin, so there we go. We're on the trend here, like talking about Russian stuff. Julian, got anything to add on that, or should we move on?
I've not got shared. I've definitely worked in a void before, but yeah, totally. No, we can move on in a very timely way to this week's selection of tweets. I mean, it's obviously been a fairly heavy news schedule, even in the last 24 hours, to be fair. And it's not going to lighten up too soon, is it really? So I think as there's like a cheese and wine story that's just broken now of Boris in the, is it number 10 garden, I think, with cheese and wine at some point in lockdown. So goodness me. I mean, I'm tempted on that basis to start with Kate's. Well, it's one of your own tweets actually, Kate, and it's all about Shaun Bailey, who's been obviously involved, mayoral candidate for the Tories, and was involved in the sort of the most egregious breaking of the COVID rules. Now, there's if you want to just read it out, and then we'll go into it. I know there's a 15-minute video attached, which I've watched, so we can pray-see it together somehow. Yeah.
So my tweet is just, you all know I totally called it on Shaun Bailey being a problem long before he was running Tory Christmas parties, right? And it links to a video which I made several months ago. But just what's happened this week is that we've seen this picture of the Conservative Party Christmas bash. It's confusing because we've got the Conservative Party Christmas party, isn't it? They're going to have to rename themselves the Conservative Work-Related Gathering in order to keep themselves above water. But yeah, and there's a photo, like they not only had a party, but then they like did a fun photo where some idiot in braces is lounging across the front holding a glass of champagne, and everybody's sort of like waving and doing silly bunny ears, and it's just like, and he's right in the middle of it, Shaun Bailey. So I made a video when he was running to be mayor of London about the fact that I have previous with him years and years ago, back in I think about 2010. I was hosting the hustings in Hammersmith when he was running to be the Tory MP there, and like I thought that it would be a good idea when we were asking the various candidates about their policies to kind of throw in a little like fact-based question to see how good they were. So if there was a question from the audience about like what the candidates would do about unemployment, I would say, before you answer the question about unemployment, can you tell me what the current rate of job seekers allowance is? And Shaun Bailey knew none of them. Like, he didn't even understand what the questions were in most cases. And he was just an absolute omnishambles. And the other candidates did all right. Andy Slaughter, who was the incumbent Labour candidate who won it in the end, he knew most of them. And Shaun was just awful. And then his agent came up afterwards and was like, so I suppose you work for the Labour Party? And I was like, no, facts don't belong to the Labour Party. They were just fact-based questions. Facts.
I have got to say,
I'm
not sure if I was doing a hustings. I don't know that I would necessarily hire a sort of known activist comedian to be chairing it, though. I don't know. Well, somebody more boring, probably.
And this is a long time ago, when I was considerably less known than I am now, and considerably less politically active than I am now. I remember it. TMO Entertainment's booked me, and I was emceeing a lot of their shows at the time, and I think they just thought, who can handle this? And in many ways, they were right. But I wasn't trying to be impartial in any way. But by the end of it, I had very strong partial views because, he was just awful. And so I'd made this video months ago recalling that and pointing out that his running for London mayor was also, a lot of his manifesto was there's just no substance to it. And it was just all fluff and nonsense. And now we're all like, people are like, apparently he's awful. And I'm like, I've been saying this for years.
Well, I mean, I'm going to say something and then I'm going to shut up and let the other two get involved. But I know that he didn't get an awful lot of support from the Conservative Party for his mayoral run, which was partly based on a few sort of, missteps that he'd made, some of which I think you cover in your video, in fairness. And maybe he wasn't the most solid candidate. I've got to say, I think he did pretty well in the mayoral elections. I think he definitely outperformed expectations. So either unpopular but still elected incumbent, or something. There was something there that connected.
Yeah, I don't care if politicians like I think that's sort of like do people connect? Like, have they got good policies that would work? He basically didn't have any policies. But I think the Conservatives were quite excited about him. When I first heard about him in Hammersmith, his agent was going around telling everybody that he was the Conservative Obama. And I was like, really,
Jeez.
Izzy, like, based on what, lads? Like, it's like,
Right,
you've seen somebody doing well in another country and you've gone, oh, let's pretend we've got the same thing happening here. Like, I found it all pretty cringe. Yeah.
Steve, I want to bring you into this now.
Yeah, I'm glad that some of the mud about parties is actually sticking, because this is one of those stories in general where I started to get annoyed by it and thought, no, this will end up being buried. That, I mean, there are probably people who see the picture of that tweet, and everyone's seen that picture, and some people will be like, yeah, well, you got to have fun, and those people I can't stand. And I'm one of those sour faces that's been all over the news about this party story, because last Christmas I didn't get to spend any time with my dad for his last Christmas. And then 15th of January, he passed away of COVID. So I'm a bit angry about all of this party lark. And I've worked out why, because even though you can make a sentence that says, oh, you know, they've worked hard, they're only having fun, whatever. It's like we were all crashed on a desert island. And we all had to survive a year on terrible rations. And then at the end of it, you get some pictures of the Conservatives absolutely having a banquet. They've found the secret room with the secret food. Now, that might not be illegal, but what it is infuriating. So yeah, I mean, I'm just annoyed by all of this, but it just shows the reason we should have been annoyed in the first place. We inherently knew that they had this one rule for them, one rule for us. You know, if you can get away with it, why wouldn't you? Is a mantra that runs through so many people. And I'm glad we're starting to find out it's actually starting to move the dial. I know we're talking about just over a week since Labour had its biggest lead in the polls, the biggest lead since 2014. And admittedly, it's not really Labour's success. That's like winning the Tour de France because everyone else had a crash. But still, it's nice that we're seeing what actual types of people we're dealing with here.
Yeah. No, I'm in agreement with both of you there. And I'm so sorry about your dad. And yes, so many stories, you know, obviously, as we know, have come through this past year. There's a serious side of it where it's been horrific, and you make sacrifices to not spend time with your loved ones, you know. And yes, you're absolutely right. And with you, Kate, definitely, I think his manifesto was weak, irrespective of you know, the party side and stuff. And I just, yeah, I don't like him. I never warmed to him. And it's interesting, Julian, that you say his popularity, because I think maybe the popularity was based on, oh, it's a black man and he could be the next Obama, and so, you know, and yes, I can say that as a woman of color. I'm just saying, you know, but it's overall, this does highlight a really ugly thing. But yeah, sorry, Julian.
No, I was just thinking it was more based on a bit of antipathy towards Sadiq Khan to some extent. I think there was knife crime issues. That? Well, there was knife crime issues that I don't think that Sadiq Khan was necessarily. No one expects him to be Batman, but he was suffering a backlash on that because he just didn't seem to, his messaging on that didn't seem to be coming across, and I think that's one of the benefits that Shaun got. But I mean, you know, it was the most egregious. I certainly thought of you, Steve, when this was going on. You know, because I knew about that, and this was the most sort of egregious sort of break of it. And I think one of the problems with this story is that we're being hit by. It has got legs because we're being hit by a new one as we speak in terms of the cheese and wine party. So you know, it is going somewhere, but it was sort of threatening to almost go into a siding when they were looking at the Zoom parties, because it was getting so sort of technical and people were starting to sort of switch off. But on a lighter note, obviously, well, slightly lighter note, this photo obviously has been enjoyed by people like Matt Heighton doing the David Brent memes and all the rest of it. The guy, and there's also, I just noticed for the first time that this guy who's sort of horizontal is rocking such a 1980s yuppie look. It's unbelievable. So you can't say there isn't continuity in the Tory party. But yeah, it's a big one. And
some people are comparing it to that picture in The Shining of everybody gathered round in the ballroom, you know, like 100 years earlier. It could be like the sort of same photo from the 1973 Conservative Party Christmas bash. And they've just like sort of turned into waxworks and the ghost of Christmas past is back to haunt them, kind of thing. Yeah.
It's not a party until someone's horizontal, or, you know, it must be the tagline on that one. But it's the jumper. It's the jumper, isn't it? That's the.
Yeah. And you also know when they do that position, you know, there's been a lot of drink involved. There's been a lot of alcohol before you do the little sliding on the floor, and then you're going to pay for those bruises the next day when you've done that. But yeah, that's
just a Rees-Mogg lying down pose. That's just keeping it on brand.
Have you ever done that pose, guys? Anyone?
Not with my bad back.
It does look like how my old
not my
11-a-side team used to defend, but...
Julia, I'm tempted to say not with my clothes on.
Yeah, that's allowed. This is allowed. That's fine.
You're right. It's not a party till somebody lies down, but it's not a real party until somebody lies down naked. That's the truth of the matter, isn't it?
I've just got an image of...
And if those pictures emerge of the Conservative Party, I think nobody will ever vote for them again. I think that might be the end of the line.
I think they'll still put a spin on it.
We've got to reach peak naked. I see. Okay.
So where are we going to go next?
Right,
from
let's have one of
Steve's.
Oh gosh. Okay. I'm just wondering. So we've got the real political big gun stories. But Steve, what do you want? Do you want Nadine Dorries or a tree?
I mean, if you want to mix it up, let's do the tree. Although, I mean, there's the best spot the difference ever with Nadine Dorries and a tree. Give me a couple of guesses at this, would you? The tree one's nice. The person who married a tree years ago still says the relationship's going strong. I mean, look, it's a story where you could just sit around doing puns all day. What they didn't grow apart, eat. But I like stories like this, which always. They are the utter...
barking to me, etc.
Right, nice, yeah. Barks worse than its bite, something like that. But these stories are actually, in part, they start to cheer me up. I like a story that's absolutely substanceless. It is someone who's realised you can get in the newspaper by doing something that's not that bizarre. It's not an actual marriage. In the event of there being a divorce, this marriage won't mean that the tree owns half the stuff. So it's not real. It just gets you in the newspapers. I do like the fact that I've not spotted any news stories, and I read a lot of tabloid rubbish for the various things I do for a living. I've never spotted a gentleman doing this. This tends to be only to the lady side. And this shows what's wrong with the day of marriage. Because if a bloke were to have a fake getting married to himself ceremony, it's just a day in an annoying suit. There's not anything else that you get that's particularly good. Now, the stag do is traditionally good for the blokes, but that's just people being problematically drunk on a weekend. That happens every weekend. It's not like there needs to be a special event for it. But it's nice to know, to check in with this lady who says that relationship is still going strong. There are also, we hear the stories of the woman who fell in love with the Eiffel Tower. Mm-hmm. There's a word that describes the condition of being able to fall in love with an inanimate object. Again, I feel the obvious punchline of, wait, it's like any husband after a couple of years. Yeah, all those jokes. Look, there is, then as soon as you get underneath the part of the story that's quite light and fluffy, I do start to worry about, are we just entertaining someone and being entertained by a story about someone who has some mental health issues? Maybe we shouldn't take it so lightly. But I don't want to make everything serious, so let's just imagine, step one is being a tree hugger, but if you're going to commit, this is what you got to do.
In fairness to men, much as they very rarely, in my experience, you're quite right, Steve, marry inanimate objects, if you read a story about somebody who's broken into the zoo and interfered with one of the animals, it's always a fella, isn't it? I mean, breaking in, burrowing into the aardvark enclosure, it's never Deborah from Stevenage, it's always a bloke. And that's why we know that the global pandemic was caused by blokes, because somebody shagged a pangolin, and it wasn't us, was it, girls? There's no way that was one of the girls. So it's like, there's definitely space for buck passing here. I mean, I know, I'm not saying Boris Johnson would shag a pangolin, but his last male predecessor shagged a dead pig, allegedly. So, I think there's precedent there among the senior ranks of the Conservative Party. Somebody got over-friendly with a pangolin, and in a lot of ways, it'd be better if they'd stuck to the trees.
What was the other one? It was a pangolin, but what was the other suspect? There were two.
Bat.
Yeah,
pangolin.
Yeah, that's right.
Isn't it quite hard to seduce a bat? I
think it's trickier to seduce a pangolin. The pangolins can roll up as a protected ball. That's surely hard.
Social hours, that's for sure. Yeah.
I don't know how you woo a bat, really. I just don't know how that must have happened. Must have really gone, put the work in for that one. But yeah, interesting points, because yes, inanimate objects. Though I did hear not so long ago, I think we had it on our show, which was a dog, a woman who married her dog because she was sick of being single. But I don't think that, again, I think that was a publicity thing. It wasn't like a serious thing. But of course, there are states in America where, of course, generally speaking, it is men who seem to marry the, animals. So both kind of correct.
So sometimes sex dolls. Yes, you get stories about men marrying sex dolls, don't you? That doesn't.
I'm going to jump in on that, because I I've always thought that there must be a bit of material about how, if anything, it's counterintuitive. That in terms of sex dolls, women tend to just have the thing that replicates just the one body part, whereas a bloke who's got a sex doll at least has the full. But you could try and spin it as like, oh, maybe this is more romantic, and then there's always a clip of the bloke who owns them who's always like, oh, she's lovely. Never a chance. Ruins any moral high ground you could try and build.
Oh dear. It just goes to show how hard dating is, basically. I mean, if it's not dog, basically it goes dogs, trees, men. That's essentially the order. But, yeah. Wow.
I think you've been on my Facebook group, Julian. Well done. I have a little Facebook group called OK Stupid. You must be in it, Sadida, aren't you? I must have
yes.
I have a Facebook group just for all my girly friends, although your female viewers are welcome to join in, called OK Stupid, where we share screenshots of the horrendous things we've seen on dating apps. And not a dull moment, I will say, not a dull moment, not a day goes by when we're not. Why is he dressed as a serial killer? Don't hold a chainsaw in your profile picture. Why is he holding a dismembered head? Does he think it's funny? Like, unbelievable. Why has he sent 6 messages demanding to see my vagina when he hasn't answered my simple question about where he lives? Like, yeah, it's a never-ending source of joy and entertainment.
Wouldn't it be really sad if there was a town called Show Me Your Vagina and he's trying to actually answer?
We just wants to know how to get there. Well, they all want to know how to get there, don't they?
Oh, you need to put it on Twitter, that Kate. Otherwise, that's the only way I'm going to see it. Right.
Okay, I will.
But great pick there. Well, both from both of you, really. So it's
I suppose we've still got. I guess we've still got. Grainne's is still kind of party related, isn't it? Really.
Oh, I suppose that would tie in.
Yeah. Well, okay. Let's.
This is yours, Kate.
It's one of yours, Kate, isn't it?
Yeah, so I just Grainne Maguire, I'm sure is known to. Has Grainne been a guest on here? She must have been.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sure you're familiar with the work of Grainne Maguire, and if you're not, you should be. So she was just talking about the Christmas party thing, and she says all these illegal Tory parties, and poor Diane couldn't even have a fucking gin in a tin on the train, which is just like just calling back to that time when everybody threw up a big fuss about Diane Abbott having a tin of gin of Marks and Spencer's gin and tonic, or I think it was a mojito actually, on the train back from a long day working in the Commons, and the fuss that was made about that and the outrage and all that. And I mean, I'm biased because Diane Abbott is my local MP, and I've always had, real, like when I've needed sort of local stuff, she's always been really supportive and really helpful. In fact, it's a sort of running joke that you've got the Christmas fairy tale of New York, and there's that line, the lyric that nobody wants to sing anymore because we don't use that word anymore and the world has moved on. And what should be singing? So people sing maggot instead, or people sing you're old and you're haggard instead. But in Hackney North and Stoke Newington, we sing you scumbag, you maggot. I love Diane Abbott. Because I think this is the biggest. I think she has the largest margin of any sitting MP in the country, and has done for a long time. She's really well liked around here, and so it's nice that Grainne remembers that people around here were like, come on, let the woman have a mojito in a tin after a long day at work. Give her a break, especially when it turns out that meanwhile. Everybody else was up to no good.
This is great, and I'm glad you brought it, because I'm going to sort of stoke the fire a little bit more, really. Like Grainne's mentioned that, and Diane Abbott couldn't have a quick drink without, everyone going mad and crazy over her. But she's also, I'm just going to put it out there, a woman of colour, and I think she got one, if you're a woman, you're going to get it hard, and 2, if you're a woman of colour, you're going to get even twice as hard. And I do think, she didn't do anything terrible, but that story ran, and yet the parties, which really genuinely, as Steve pointed out, how hurtful they've actually been to people who've made genuine sacrifices and can never bring that time back, are just brushed aside like it's oh, for goodness sake, it's nothing. We've had politicians laughing, we've had can we just get back to the matter at hand? And I even sort of wonder if the whole look, we've got to be really super careful this Christmas, is just really to try and cover the Partygate. So it's just an interesting thing how different people are treated differently, even.
I mean, look, I don't think you can say the Tories haven't come in for a bucket load of shit over these party things. You can't say that. I mean, they're actually.
Sorry, could you just repeat that? Sorry.
Well, you can't say that the Tories haven't got it in the neck for these parties, though. I mean, they've just been.
I think there is a difference in the scale of the reaction.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know,
it's I think if Boris had had a can of gin and tonic on the train, I don't think he would have got the reaction that Diane has had. And actually, interestingly, because I get a lot of, you know, on the subject of Twitter, I get a lot of internet abuse on lots of social media platforms, including this one, and you know, of course, over the years, when it's been particularly horrendous, I have had cause to go and report it to the police. And on the whole, they've been wildly unhelpful and dismissive and useless. And one thing they do is they refer you to victim support. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, let's play this game. So I go and see victim support. And they're like, well, you know, what would you like? Some counselling? And I'd like, no, I'd like somebody to do something about this and take these crimes seriously. And they're like, oh, yeah, it's difficult. Well, maybe you could go and talk to your MP and raise this with them. And I'm like, I think Diane Abbott is aware of internet abuse. I really don't think there's any need for me to go around there. Oh, sorry to bother you, Diane. There's this thing called abuse on the internet. I don't know if you're familiar. Like, of course she knows about it. Like, did they not do a survey before the last general election? And in the 6 weeks, I'm like, don't quote me on these statistics, but I believe they looked at certain offensive terms and how often they were used on the internet, and they found like 6 million abusive tweets sent to MPs in some time frame leading up to the election, and half of those abusive tweets basically had been sent to Diane Abbott. That half of the abuse being sent to MPs was going to Diane Abbott. Like, it's not that other people don't get it, but there is an imbalance in the way that these things are thrown around. Yeah,
female MPs full stop do get a lot harsher ride on social media. So although, you know, it's a great point that Grainne raises, and is a nice little callback, but there is a very serious side to it, where there is definitely a misogyny against women MPs. Let's keep it to politics over, and then beyond that, even female, you know, women of colour who are going to get it in the neck a little bit more. But yeah, great treat, and thanks for bringing up Grainne. We should get Grainne back on the show again. Steve, any
I was just gonna say, like, I mean, great tweet, great point, but it's a case of two wrongs. Now, one wrong is really small in comparison to the huge wrong, but I'm kind of in favour of also not drinking on the tube. And it's not so that people can quietly have a borderline medicinal drink at the end of a hard week. The reason you need people to stick to that rule is so you can enforce the rule properly when it's an absolute bunch of arseholes who've been drinking all day because of some football or something. That's what I don't want to travel with. So, you know what? If the rule means you can't drink, then I think we all should stick to the rule. This is why I get annoyed by the Christmas parties as well. The crime is not that bad, really. Having a party is not commensurate with the level of rage that I feel. But the thing is, if you're making a rule, just stick to it. If your job is rule related, just chip in and stick to it. I suppose I've reached the stage in life where I've followed rules so well. I think it's my personality type is I'm obsessively rule following. Like, I go around car parks in the direction of the arrows, and I'm starting to get more annoyed with the rest of society not doing. And this makes it turn back to Boris Johnson when he said that British people are freedom-loving as a euphemism for rule-breaking. No, stop patting people on the back for breaking small rules that you think should get away with. Just stick to the damn rules, and everyone gets a better time.
Steve has brought us back. He's brought us back to the kind of very level. Yes, actually, you know, we have to look at the bigger thing, which is the rules was broken. Rules is rules, and yes, I agree. I guess both Kate and I were probably trying to sort of show, look, you know, women are getting it in the neck. So, but both. I mean, Steve, you're right. I mean, you can't, because I don't actually like seeing people drinking on the trains. It makes me feel really anxious. But
yeah. And it's not right that seeing people drinking on the train should make us feel anxious either. But it is just true that when people get drunk, there is a scary element to them.
They get silly. And a number of times I've handed out a plastic bag to someone because I can see they're going to vomit. You know, I think, oh my God, it's going to come. I'm just going to, and I'm literally, and nobody else can see it. It's like, you know, they're going to vomit because you've traveled so many times on the train, and you know that look, that green around the gills look, and you think, I do not want this puke over me. Thank you very much. I'll just give them a carrier bag and just carry my shopping home.
Wow.
I think we should let everyone drink on the trains, even the buses, even the drivers.
New Year's Eve's all right, isn't it? New Year's Eve.
Why are you all right on the train? They've got rails. It can only go forward.
I'm not wasting one of my Waitrose bags on that. No way.
They got child safety holes in anyway, Julian. That's all going to end in tears.
Oh, I don't know. Not all the ones. Not the bamboo ones or whatever they are.
So let's go to something fun now, okay. Jules.
No, it's relentless misery this week. Come on. Oh yeah.
Where's one of your silly ones?
Oh, hang on. Wait a sec.
Let's get a sorbet in.
Cool.
Cleanse our palate.
Steve, is this one of yours? Oh, it is, isn't it? Yeah. Cheshire
Oh,
Police.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I mean, we actually talked about something similar to this last time. So Julia and I were on TV together, and this one came up in the week. And this is Cheshire Police sending out Christmas card messages to criminals saying, don't do some crimes. And I kind of think, look, maybe this is some sort of a PR thing. The dark arts of PR is well beyond me, so you might fill me in here. But it does come across as it's not going to stop anyone. The idea of receiving some funny message, no one's going to be on their way to do a crime and go, you know what, though, I did get that message, so I probably won't do the crime that I planned. Also, it does come across as a big old waste of time, because someone's got to be coming up with these ideas and following them through. And that person might well be better spent looking at some of the tweets that you've reported, Kate, because it's really difficult to make an actual investigation. It is if everyone's in there using the printer, coming out with funny little cards. The thing that we were talking about in the week elsewhere was about one police force that did like the 12 criminals of Christmas as a little funny thing on social media. And again, no one's going to think, oh, I wasn't going to dob in my stepbrother, but that tweet was pretty funny, so go on then. So they're effectively useless, other than just getting in the newspaper. And does the police need more PR? I mean, we know they exist, don't they? We all know the phone number as well. So in terms of branding, we got it. They should probably stop working on the publicity and do more of that policing stuff.
Amazingly, Steve, I've literally just today on the brink of releasing a video that says something very similar. It's not about this because I hadn't seen this one, but I think you're absolutely right. Nobody's like wielding the axe and then saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, ding dong, is that the postman? Oh, I'll just pop open this. Oh, how festive! Look, robins. What does it say on the back? Oh, it says, don't do any crimes. Oh, all right then." Like the ghost of Christmas past. So my News at Kate video that's coming out tonight is about the fact that Hackney Council have put up these posters that are like, we take domestic violence and violence against women and girls seriously in Hackney. If you've got a problem, call the police on this number, 999. Like, no, we know the number. And then the worst thing is that when you do go and report stuff, and it also on these posters, it says things like, using sexually explicit language or abusive terminology, this is a crime and you could end up in prison. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I wish it were the case, but the fact is, if you shuffle up to me in Stoke Newington High Street and shout titwank in my ear, you're not going to prison. I mean, you're just not. Like, they can claim that all day, but it is factually incorrect. You are not at risk of going to prison if you use sexually graphic language in the street. I mean, possibly if you do it, it becomes a thing. And instead of which, it gives the impression that they're really responsible and it's easy. All you do is you ring this number and we sort it out immediately. But those of us who have tried ringing the said number are well aware that it doesn't work like that. So it's like, I think it's this, and I think politicians do this a lot. It's like the triumph of spin doctors and spin over actual substance. It's like, in fact, it brings us back to Shaun Bailey with one of his big mayoral campaigns was, I'm going to end the transmission of HIV in London. And then you were like, how are you going to do that? And his answer was that he was going to use some of his advertising budget to put up some posters saying, go and get tested. And you were like, I don't think people who are aware that they might be at risk are unaware that they can't get a test. I think maybe there's this, we need to challenge much deeper and more complicated issues. It's not as simple as, I've got a plan, we'll put a poster up, that'll solve the problem. And I think the government does it all the time. We need the police. What can we do to improve confidence in the police? Well, here's how we can improve confidence in the police. They could be better. And then people would have confidence in them because they were better, not because we've been round going, no, really, you can trust these guys, they're great.
I've just thought of something that we should do. We haven't got time to do it, but something we should do is have the Shaun Bailey challenge, where we randomly pick any tweet and see how Kate can bring it back to Shaun Bailey. Just anything. No, but fair enough. It was actually probably that was allowable. Judge rules. So this tweet, by the way, just to give it credits, from Tracy, which is at TP101, TPEA 101. Love the festival campaign from Cheshire Police. Don't be a bam this Christmas is the hashtag. I mean,
sorry, what does a bam mean? I know it obviously demonstrates that I'm not in the least bit.
I was going to ask that myself, and I assumed that one of you would know.
Yeah, don't don't be a BAM.
Is it a badass motherfucker? I don't know. But if so,
that sounds. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not down with the kids.
No,
so,
I know. This is like a Zoom room full of not down.
Well,
with
we're all
kids.
people
It looks
not
like
from
we're down
Cheshire.
with the thick kids on this one, because I don't know what that is.
we're obviously not as street as the good people
Yeah,
of Cheshire,
exactly.
which is quite worrying because I'm not sure they're all that street. But
Can I just say, having
okay.
spent Christmases like when I was in my youth, misspent youth, and I'm looking at that, and I'm thinking the number of times that I've sort of like crashed on a station, or I would probably just commit a crime to have a little kip in that room for the night.
yeah,
just
when
so
I
could have
first
a
saw
bed
that,
for
I
the
thought
night.
that was like aimed at the homeless, saying, "Hey, don't
Yeah.
worry, we'll get you in. You can have a little
just-
bed like this. It'd be nice."
I'm not sure it's a deterrent, because if I could, I'd rather sleep there than at a station again.
The problem is their advertising campaign has misinformed people that shouting titwank is going to get you a night in a place like that, and sadly it won't.
People strolling around Hackney now shouting titwank and thinking they're getting put up at the Hilton.
Oh dear.
Exactly.
I mean, that is better than a lot of rooms you'll see on Spare Room. So I mean, I don't know.
Martin, if you're listening, Martin, our super fan. Can we find out what don't?
No, it's
be
a Ned. I've looked it up. BAM is like a Ned, apparently.
A
Like
Ned?
The Scottish kind of ne'er-do-well, bad kid. Scottish word
BAM
for
is a
someone
Scottish
annoying
word for
or
someone
stupid.
annoying or stupid. Thank you, Martin. Okay.
Hmm.
Wow. Right. Well, I feel really, really down with the silly kids now, because I didn't know that. I've never heard it before. So
Can I
what
also
have we-
say
what have
on
we
this
got?
topic?
I want to do something.
Hang on.
like-
We've got a late entry. Go on, Steve.
No, I was just
Late
going
entry.
to wrap it up on this topic. The other reason it annoys me is because I don't think really any business should be sending me Christmas cards. Because, to be honest, I don't have any emotional connection. So, like, there's an estate agents I used this year. They sent me a Christmas card. Could have saved that tree, mate. I don't want best wishes. I would have preferred 2% off. That would have been nice. But yeah, I mean, the year of COP26, let's not be sending more Christmas cards from companies. No, get over it. I don't need them.
One thing I will just quickly add. I know we need to press on, but it is social media campaigns. You would expect the police to have some kind of social media campaign. You'd expect any company to have a social media campaign, but there is something sort of disingenuous about it. So I mean, you look at the Ryanair's account that's just gone mental over the last few weeks because they've gone so big on the kind of the Tory party fiascos and all the rest of it. And then they're sort of relentless. They did this tweet the other day. I have to say it was quite a good tweet because their chairs look like the map of Shropshire with lots of Lib Dem on the safe seat and not the safe seat. You'd have to see it. But it's just weird though because a lot of people have a lot of beef with Ryanair for one reason or another, and there's so something slightly disingenuous about being on your side. I mean, just stick to being an airline account. Be creative in your milieu. I don't know. Maybe that's a little bit narrow.
I hate companies pretending to be my friend because, like, they're for-profit businesses. I hate it. And they're like, when you get emails from a company you bought something from, and then it's like, hey, it's tough, isn't it? We've all had bad, And I'm like, I think you meant to say, dear sir or madam. Because you're a company and I'm a customer, and that's it. That is our relationship. At some point, I'm going to refuse to buy products from any company that doesn't refer to me as madam.
I'm just showing the North Shropshire tweet now because basically it's like their chair, like the rest of it's blue, but the top bit's yellow, as in Lib Dem. So it's creative. You've got to tip your hat off to it, but there's just I don't know. There's something doesn't sit right. Like when you sit on the Ryanair seat.
Be safer if they didn't underfuel their planes so that they could beat airport queues, wouldn't it?
Well, there you go. That's what the SD inside track we need on this show. And exactly. I hadn't quite shut my attack on that, but thanks, Kate. So where are we? We've had trees. We've had a lot of party stuff. We've had police. Right, that was yours, Steve, wasn't it? So let's...
Can we look at the AngelaRayner
Yes,
one?
we can look at the
I think
AngelaRayner
that we
one.
all know something about this, and I think she makes a really good point. So AngelaRayner tweets, the hospitality and events sector is facing cruel uncertainty. The public are heading anxiously towards Christmas. Hundreds of thousands of people are in isolation. Where on earth is the Prime Minister? And the thing is that last time, when there was a lockdown, the first time around, everything got closed, right? It got closed. And then that meant that, businesses were closed and they could then apply for furlough if they had employees, and they could apply for grants and loans. Now, I'm not saying that they got the right amount of grants and loans, or that everyone was treated fairly. Lots of people did fall through the gaps. But as it is now, because they haven't officially closed anything, all the bars and restaurants are open, but a lot of people aren't going because they're isolating or because they don't want to get Omicron and end up having to isolate for Christmas. Loads and loads of comedy shows have been cancelled. I've lost like a couple of really like well-paid corporates out of my gig that I was sort of out of my gig list that I was sort of relying on for Christmas. But there's no reason to be compensated because they theoretically could go ahead. It's just that we've all made the choice not to because that's better for us. So they're sort of, by not closing things down, but just telling people to like this sort of like, oh, don't do any unnecessary socializing, cut back, minimize it. And you're in this totally messed up place where like, I've got shows coming up. And if people write to me and say, actually, I don't feel safe coming, can I have a refund? I'm like, well, then I haven't got a job and I'm still paying for the venue. So then I've got to write to the venue and go, well, nobody feels safe coming. Can we all have a refund? It creates like it's such an unfair way of doing things to just kind of leave everything. And, you know, this is the Christmas period when most hospitality things would be making their maximum amount of money. And a lot of them are now running with loads and loads of distancing and with much smaller crowds than usual. So they're actually now making a loss when it should be their most profitable time of the year. And there's no support at all. There's just nothing.
Don't you think that's more to do with, you know, just this government's way of making us feel responsible so that if, you know, obviously this happened the first time round, just say you need to close the businesses down because then they can be protected, but you didn't want to do that. So obviously it's coming out the businesses, small businesses pockets, coming out of comedians' pockets, you know, whatever. Whoever is suffering is going to be down on our decision making, and it's like, that's down on us, but that was always the ploy, and that's what he's avoided throughout the whole of the pandemic, is to make a decision, and so that because we can't go back and say, oh, it's your fault we did that. He'll say, well, I didn't say to close down the businesses, I just said, you know, be careful and do what you've got to do. So it's a shitty thing. I totally agree. What about Steve? Where do you stand on this?
Yeah, I also think there's a big slice of Tory voters who don't want to see the government bring in rules. So the government aren't bringing in rules, they're bringing in hints so that they can try and keep both plates spinning. And you're right, it's just like when it started last year and there was a strange period of only a few days when we were told don't go to the pub, but the pubs were open, and then eventually they had to step things up into lockdown. But that exact weird limbo is now the actual state that we're in. It's just, and it's not even just the advice of don't do it. It's Boris Johnson kind of hinting, well, maybe, and then right next to him, Chris Whitty saying, oh, no, don't. And even that, you can't get a clear message from two people stood next to each other. How are you meant to understand what to do? So you're right, they do leave it all in our particular decision-making quandary, and then they don't have any of the responsibility. And I refer back to the thing that wound me up the most last year. Calling the people who break rules freedom-loving is clearly trying to have both sides of that coin. No, if you come up with a rule and someone breaks it, you should be upset about it rather than complimenting them, unless you're giving yourself a pat on the back because you broke those rules too, which now we realise in hindsight might be the actual issue.
Yeah,
it's an absolute mess. This we're not going to say lockdown, but we're going to, but like don't go and do anything. And for like, you know, I would love to be able to say to people, oh, if you don't feel comfortable coming to a show, here, I'll give you your money back. But, and then on top of that, so many people have Omicron. I mean, another tweet I put out just this afternoon saying, shall we rename London Omicron Soup? Because half the people I know have got COVID right now. So what am I supposed to do when audience members say we can't come to your show because we're at home self-isolating? I mean, it feels really mean to say, sorry, I'm keeping your tenner. But in fact, half of that money was going to the venue anyway and was going to pay for the ticket, you know, and the commission and all this kind of stuff. Only half of that money was ever going to come anywhere near me. So
that's a shitty thing though, Kate. It's because, so you're the one that's feeling guilty. You're the one that's like, you know, it's kind of, you're taking that responsibility because the people at the top are not taking responsibility for all of that, all of the people like in that situation. And it just beggars belief that is the way that we And also now we're turning against each other. People are turning against each other because it's like, my choices, my body, my choices, my rights, I'm not going to get the vaccine if I don't see I'm all right, I'm okay. Because no one's saying that actually, if you don't see if you don't follow the train of thought, if you don't have vaccines, if you don't have the boosters, then you're going to end up in hospital. The hospitals can't, the NHS can't cope with it. So people who have got like cancer, life-saving, life-threatening diseases and stuff, they can't get treated. So you're effectively stopping them from having the priority treatment. They can't follow that thought process through because they've been told that it's their decision and they can make that decision. And so people like yourself, Kate, are having to return those tickets, feeling shitty about it. Same as me with the club. If I had to now cancel January, I've lost loads of money already. So that's crap, but no one's sorting us out. And that's just the state of this country right now, where we're blaming each other, but not actually where it all really comes from, which is at the top.
Great segue to Steve's tweets on Piers Corbyn then, I think, in terms of people blaming each other. Now, I'm tempted not to turn the sound up on this one, because do we all know the story? Yeah. Essentially, we all do, don't we, really? So this one was picked up by an account, CFR, Days Johnby, Days. It just simply, I'll just run through it quickly. It says, Piers Corbyn here asking people to burn down MPs' offices. Why is this man allowed on our streets? At Met Police, at Keir Starmer, not spelt right, I don't think. At Jeremy Corbyn, at Boris Johnson, at Priti Patel. Lock up this man, for God's sake. And of course, it's a story with a happy ending, because I believe he was arrested. But I don't actually know what's happened since.
It's so nice, because normally if I work in broadcasty, radio, TV things, as soon as the arrest happens, you don't get to talk about a story. But this is the internet. Hey. And yeah, he did turn out he was arrested for saying the thing about suggesting you should burn down MPs' offices. Not arrested for the singing on the tube or the rapping, which I believe he did. I mean, all of those videos are annoying. But the idea that, I mean, he's reached a level now where he is problematic. That just putting the posters on the tube was annoying back in the day. Remember when it was just simply videos of him putting up a poster with some lie about masks or whatever it was about? And now he's starting to become the figurehead of a really worrying group. Just because this is a segue between the last topic and this one, I think it fits to mention as well the gigs I did over the weekend. You then start to notice that most of the people in the audience aren't mask wearers and probably aren't vaccinated, because everyone else who likes the rule stays at home. So you end up going out and doing a gig to people you already hate and think they might have all the dirty plague. And their figurehead would be Piers Corbyn. What an absolute mess. In there, he also does a really bizarre rant saying that by taking the vaccine, you have given yourselves AIDS by March. So I don't quite follow the science, and that would be because there is no science in what this man says. But that's another one of his angles. But thankfully, there was an arrest about it. Yeah, it turns out you can't go around suggesting that you should track down the MPs you disagree with and do them physical harm. Thank God.
I'm glad you approve of rules are rules, Steve.
I love the rules. I love the rules. If you don't like the rules, campaign to change the rules. Got it simple.
Yeah, I mean, I think Piers Corbyn has been around for a long time, and he's been a big sort of anti-science conspiracy theorist type for a very long time. In fact, I don't just think this, I know this because weirdly enough, I would say about 5 years ago, I had breakfast with him in a hotel in Oxford, as you were all expecting me to say, I imagine, with the sort of weird life that I live. And I went up to Oxford to the Union to do a debate for the posh kids at the university, and this was when Jeremy Corbyn was first, had taken over as leader of the Labour Party. And so there was just a sort of general excitement about who can we get that's something to do with that. And it was a comedy debate anyway. It was just a fun thing. And the subject of the debate was, this house regrets the success of their friends. So the idea was that perhaps Piers Corbyn was jealous of his brother's success in taking the reins of the Labour Party. Although I was there to argue that, no, we should be happy for our friends when they're doing well, and we should delight in that. And that was my point that I attempted to make while being funny and drinking the free expensive wine that was being handed out. But in fact, what happened was that Piers Corbyn didn't get up and talk about his brother or about any of that. He got up and held up a large inflatable globe with a string of fairy lights around it and attempted to explain how something about ocean currents disproved global warming. And it was an absolute omni-shambles, but it was kind of hilarious. And
who doesn't love fairy lights? I mean, come on.
Yeah, and I mean, I think as long as you remember that, it's not Jeremy's fault. He hasn't told him to do this, and indeed, it's not. You can't be held responsible for the activities of your brothers and sisters. Then, well, there you have it. I think he gets more attention than he deserves because of his relationship to Jeremy Corbyn. And what we should be doing is, yes, obviously, if he's broken the law, we should be arresting him. But also we should be kind of, in a way, ignoring him because, sure, another bit of unscientific waffle. He's been at it for a while.
Well, apparently he's out. Martin says he's out pending further investigation. I mean, how... I don't know what more investigation.
Watching the video
again. I think the police Wi-Fi was out, maybe. I don't know.
They were too busy printing off Christmas cards.
Yeah, and getting their next tweet together. Oh dear. Okay, well we've.
So people in the public eye. I'm just wondering if we can go to from there to Louis C.K., who was trending.
Hang on, have I got the right? I'm in the mentions
earlier on.
Sorry. Yeah, well, there were a clutch of tweets on here, weren't there? Actually,
yeah, there was about 3 tweets. So it's just above Madonna's.
Yeah, it's these 3 here. In fact, we might even almost fit them.
Yeah, so we've got firstly Victoria Bromworth. So Louis C.K. has a new special out. Sorry, that he's selling online. An ad running SNL. For those who forgot, Louis C.K. sexually assaulted a series of women comedians, then went right back to work, and no one blinked. So quit whining about cancel culture because it's a myth. That was from Victoria Bromworth. Then there was another tweet, they're all sort of together, from Ashley Smash L-E-R-R. I can't decide which is worse, reading tweets from white men defending Louis C.K. and applauding his return, or contracting Omicron, which I thought was a nice little comparison. And then from Simon King, who I think is unfamous. It's at unfamous, although he's got a blue tick.
I know, but Simon King is a stand-up. He's I'm going to say Canadian, but I might be wrong. I've worked with Simon.
I don't know. I haven't come across him, but he's,
I've gigged with Simon. I don't think he's in the UK anymore. I think he's gone back to. Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong. He's gone back to Canada.
Well, he's tweeted.
But he's a very funny man, lovely man.
A very funny man. So he's tweeted Lucas, which I did find the joke funny. Which Louis C.K. just released a new special today without any warning. So I guess Louis doesn't always want you to see him coming, right? So this is all obviously referencing Louis C.K. and his kind of comeback to comedy, if you like. So I just wanted to really ask our 2 comedian guests, where they sit on, should Louis C.K. be coming back? And I think it's called Sorry, his new show. So it's obviously alluding to maybe he's sorry for what he did. Can we forgive and forget? And should he be working back in the clubs and back in comedy? Let's start with Steve.
It's difficult to know. I mean, I don't know. I've not paid enough attention to know the details of what happened. I know enough info to get Simon King's joke. Was there any criminal things brought against him?
No, there weren't.
Okay. Well, I mean, look, I didn't think this was his first comeback. I thought there was one in the first pandemic.
Yeah, there's one out already. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. And part of this, you imagine, this is one of the few times when I agree that market forces can actually be useful. Because if someone's distasteful, they won't get an audience. And I think that actually hits to the point of cancel culture. It's not cancel culture if you lose your audience because people find out they don't like you anymore. That's not. There might be some story of someone else feeling pressure, or some company feeling pressure, or university feeling pressure to remove someone from their post. But that, and loads of people will think, you can't say anything these days. You can't do something that's a criminal act and still have a successful career. Of course, that's in no way linked to cancel culture. But I don't actually know enough. If one were to fully apologise, if someone were to actually repent, then I wouldn't think that the rest of their life should be acted as if they never did. So, I guess I think someone, if they truly were sorry, oh God, look at that. Of course, the title now means I'm going to have to watch the damn thing. But if someone were truly sorry, then I guess there's a reason to see if there's still people who are willing to listen to what they have to say.
Okay.
I just think that, I don't know, I work in comedy. I know dozens of brilliant, talented, women, brilliant, talented women of colour, brilliant, talented women with disabilities, women. There are just so many amazing, brilliant people in comedy who deserve to release specials and deserve that attention, and who are just so fascinating and wonderful to listen to. And I just don't think that in the circumstances there's any need for anybody to still be in the world of Louis CK. Like, I'm not, there's no way I'm interested in downloading it. There's no way I can be bothered with it. And I just think what a shame that all that energy and effort has gone into producing something when there just isn't a shortage of wonderful people. I'm not saying he should never be rehabilitated, but I just don't feel like he's the right person to be on a big public stage. Like, if he's genuinely sorry and genuinely rehabilitated, then I don't quite see why he can't go and get on with a job that is less high profile and is less sort of putting himself in front of the public. I think, great, he's rehabilitated, so he will have done, made serious actions and taken inroads to, make up for what he's done. I don't see any real evidence that he's done a lot of that. And he will have obviously then accepted that, it's not appropriate for him to carry on being, in a high profile position, which is inevitably going to lead to, a lot of young men looking up to him. And I think that he's the wrong person for that. I don't think we should have Mike Tyson's face on energy drinks. I don't think that people who've done stuff like this are the right people to be public facing roles. And I think that I can easily fill that role using brilliant women that I know, and they could just call me and I'll send them a roster of suggestions. You're welcome, Mr. and Mrs. WeMakeSpecials.com.
The fence-sitting Sajila is kind of seeing both viewpoints. I don't know if Julian can bring something that will sway me to, because I kind of see both what you're saying, but I just wondered what Steve was thinking, because obviously you're rule breaking, and I would have thought that, wanking without consent in front of a woman is breaking, perhaps not a law, but it is a rule that I think, we generally kind of think you shouldn't be doing that. And I
think it is breaking the law. I don't think it's breaking.
Yeah, I mean, it is a sex. It's a sort of.
According to these posters in Hackney, it is.
It wasn't in Hackney. Maybe that was the problem. He wasn't in Hackney. I don't know.
He just needed a place to sleep.
I do. So I take Steve's point. I mean, both excellent arguments actually, but I do take Steve's point about. Popularity will out, or the market will out, in the sense that if people don't want to listen to him, they won't download and all the rest of it. I mean, Kate's point on retraining is very it's kind of an interesting one, that you've transgressed, therefore you must start your career, you must go to the open mic circuit and work your way back up.
Now that is purgatory, isn't it? I mean, I think we can all agree.
Yeah, that it would be a punishment, wouldn't it?
Yeah, your punishment is 6 years on the open mic circuit.
I think it's a great punishment, actually.
I mean, but one thing that I did remember today when I saw your tweet, so I remembered that he did issue an apology, not right afterwards, but a few weeks afterwards, and I can't remember the actual text, but the word admired is in it quite a lot, and it's a bit like the Joey Tribbiani wedding vows for Monica and Chandler. It's like it's having and giving and giving and having, and there was just if you go back and read it, you'll see a lot of I'm really sorry I did this because I'm so admired or whatever. There was just something slightly weird about the way he'd worded it. But clearly, people will download. I mean, I think the last special that he did was when he did the school shootings routine, which got him in quite a lot of hot water there. So,
but
I find it difficult on this one, because in terms of how I don't know if he's had any contact with the people that were in the room with him, and he's made some kind of. I think that there has been some contact there, and he's made some kind of recompense, which I don't know if it's adequate in their eyes. It's certainly not going to be adequate in everyone's eyes.
Well, let's face it. If it was an open spot, if it's someone who didn't have such a high profile, I think we'd be a lot more sort of never go back out there. You're not even allowed to go back in the open mic circuit. It's Louis CK. It's got a high profile. And if I'm going to be controversial, I'd never really been a Louis CK fan, and so I never got the hype. I was like, what am I missing? Why am I not? I'm not thinking that this guy's the genius that everybody thinks he is. So.
See, that's where it's
I feel that about 2/3 of high profile white men on the international circuit, Sajila. I'm like, I feel a bit Emperor's New Clothes about a lot of this stuff. I'm like, all right, really? That's great, is it?
I mean,
there's a sort of, this is so groundbreaking, and you're like, I know 50 people on the open mic circuit who do that, Great.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Sorry,
was a
Julian.
fan. I mean, so much so that, I got my hairline like him and everything. So it's uncanny. But yeah, this is more than difficult. So yeah.
And controversy again, and someone else who's been getting a lot of flack is Closer, what's his name?
Oh, Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, well,
Dave
that's
Chappelle.
like-
Dave Chappelle.
yeah,
So I
but
watched The Closer last night actually, and I'm expecting to be, really shocked, and because all the hype that's around it. And as a black man with his history, his lived experience, there's certain bits I can imagine people cringing, but I think he's good, but I didn't think it was his best show. And I'm just going to say that, I think the guy's getting like loads of hassle for he's not transphobic. I'm just going to put that out there, just saying it.
Right.
Yeah,
But it's also the courses.
Yeah, I've seen it, and I felt the same. Like I was expecting to be really disgusted and offended, and there were certainly things that he said that I thought, oh, I disagree with that. But I do feel like if you read The Spectator is a magazine in which white guys say that kind of stuff, actually in much stronger terms, and in terms which I find much more offensive, and nobody makes. And there's not really much outcry about it. But when J.K. Rowling does it and when Dave Chappelle does it, there's a much bigger outcry about it. And I'm like, are you angry about the thing that was said? Or did you already hate the person and now you found a reason to kind of hang that on? And I think we might be back to the Diane Abbott issue that, yes, she broke a small rule in a small way and the reaction is huge. And I think that Dave Chappelle has said some things that I disagree with, as has J.K. Rowling. And the reaction has been huge, whereas there are, straight white establishment figures who say these kind of things and break these rules much more aggressively and in much more out there ways and don't seem to get the backlash that others do.
Yeah.
Right, we need some drink now.
Yeah, let's have gin and tonic.
I'm conscious we're running over slightly, but we've got 3 things left. We've got photos and gin, which are both kind of really funny tweets. We've also got Dorries as well, which probably would count for that. But whose tweet was the gin tweet?
That's mine.
Yours, wasn't
Yeah.
it? So
yeah. And there's part of this which is saying that there's an issue about Aldi copying Marks and Spencer again, and that we can all remember the heady days of the Colin the Caterpillar issue. But the reason I wanted to rant more, I can go straight into my annoyed rant. Why are we putting edible gold in so many things?
Let's read the tweet. Let's do the tweet first. Let's read it. It's from Shoesmiths. Do you want me to? Read it out?
If you could, because I'm watching this on the little teleprompter auto cue, and it's so tiny.
Not a problem. From Shoesmiths. Right, first Caterpillar Gate, now Gin Gate for Marks and Spencer and Aldi UK. Both retailers' gins come in a bell-shaped bottle with light in the base, illuminating edible gold flakes inside. Our expert, the image lawyer, gives his thoughts, and there's a picture of the 2 bottles there.
Yeah, I mean, look, maybe there is some sort of brand issue, but before we even get there, stop eating gold. Why are you wanting to eat a metal? I've always thought, look, I know people love showing off how wealthy they are, and I've often thought people's obsession with status is actually a sign of weakness. This is why I don't really blend well with society. People like the idea of showing off they got a big car. It's like, well done, you clearly had some money. That's all I know about you, because now you've bought an expensive car. And it feels like a sign of weakness that you want people to think, oh, you're so great, because you're depending on other people. And surely the most pointless thing to try and do to get status is to eat and drink gold. Surely it doesn't taste good. It's a transition metal down that bit with copper and silver. Nothing good comes out of that flavour. No one's ever eaten anything and gone, it needs more gold. So clearly it can't taste good. It can't be good for you. It's not one of the metals we need. No one's ever been to the doctors and they said, I'm afraid you're not getting enough gold. What? So, there's those 2 sides of it. It's utterly pointless. And it's just the most empty attempt to have status. Like, look how rich I am. I'm gold plating my food. And then I don't even know if you digest it without getting too graphic. I don't know if your poos come out looking like they're pre-wrapped. So
Nuggets.
Yeah, like C-3PO had a baby. But so I'm against the idea of stop doing this. We have limited amounts of gold in the earth, because it takes some really big stars going supernova to make atoms like that, and people like it in jewellery. So let's stop eating it and flushing it down the toilet, you bunch of idiots. It does mean, well, I'm not sure what's going to happen. Either someone's going to have to sit there and filtering out all the gold for, actually maybe this is a big con, so that the people who run the sewage treatment works They're making a mint out of this. All they need to do is put a sieve down, and all of a sudden they can just turn up with a bag to that Cash for Gold place and sort out their financial situation.
Anyone who works at the sewage works and brings a sieve to work, they can have it, as far as I'm concerned. That is a level of commitment to a get-rich-quick scheme that I am just willing to leave them to. Like, you're welcome to it. If I have shut out any valuable jewellery items, they may keep those.
Well, I've got to say that you've just picked on something that's quite... I'm getting these bottles of gin with the gold in it for my team at the cottage. If you're listening, yes, this is what Sir Julia was going to buy for you as a little thank you for Christmas. But also in terms of eating gold, you're getting it from Aldi. I'm going to get it from Aldi, not from M&S. M&S is 13 quid. It might be cheaper in Aldi. But gold, it is an edible thing. So I've grown up, we have gold on our Indian sweets, gold and silver, like a little tiny gold sheet, a little tiny silver sheet. And it is edible. There is supposed to be some goodness in it, and it's usually for special occasions. We even have it on like a semolina sort of dessert that we make at Eid on our Christmas, and so it's a special occasion. And you put like a film, and it's not that expensive as you think, so it's not really worth much.
But I would say just because you traditionally eat it doesn't necessarily mean there is medicinal value in eating a transition metal. Not that all transition metals are bad. Some of them are bioactive. So clearly iron's a transition metal. People love a slice of that. But gold's not one of them.
Gold is highly unreactive, so there's no way that it's doing anything in your system. It's just coming straight out the other end. It's a mass. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we like it in jewellery, because it doesn't tarnish. And that's because it's hugely unreactive. It's
soluble in its nitrate form. So that might be an issue. Clearly, to have the ability to turn it into a nitrate. I mean, that's when it's acidic. That's when gold gets attacked. And copper sulfate. If it's in the same group, there'll be a sulfate that'll be linked to it as well. But yeah, I'm not saying it's bad for you. What I'm saying is it's not good for you. It doesn't do any good. No one's ever needed more gold. And if you're going to drink that much, there is a slight worry about getting through metal detectors. But other than that, I mean, yeah, go for it. But I just think I'm calling it out as stupid.
I don't know if it is real gold in there though. Not
but if it's not, then it's iron parites, which is the fake gold, and at least iron is good for you. Fool's gold would be better in this situation. So you've come round a full
circle. It's actually good for you. Go and buy it, kids.
If it were fool's gold, yeah.
Well, I think the moral of the story, and I know it's late to say this, the moral of the story is buy your Christmas presents early. Go to small, independent, and like online retailers who are doing some, because the big supermarkets are just relying on sort of last-minute panic buying, and they make something that looks quite fancy but is actually not really particularly good or exciting or worth all that. You're paying quite a high premium over what it's really worth. I made a video about this a couple of weeks ago about where I bought some bath bombs online from like an independent family-run business up in Sheffield, and I bought a couple from like Sainsbury's, whatever, and they're basically the same price. And then we put them both in the bath, and one just sits there like an Alka-Seltzer, and the one I bought from the independent company, it's all like bright colours and it fizzes and it smells amazing and looks really pretty. And like this, the sort of pre-packed gifts in the chain stores are there to feed off the fact that people leave it to the last minute and they're like, oh no, I haven't bought anything for somebody, and you rush down and get something. You can get something much, much better, but you have to do it now. It's the 19th of December. Now.
Well, I don't know. Last minute thing, I might just I've got, obviously Asian people all have gold, women have gold, from their dowries. I might just stick a gold necklace in a bottle of any old cheapo gin and just give it to someone, and then drop me necklace.
You just go down the pawnbrokers. What have you got that's gold? I want to bung it in a can of lager. They'll love that.
Yeah,
what I love about
it's I take your point, Steve, entirely. Yes, it does. You point out the ridiculous. And Kate, thanks for adding in about obviously get those last minute bargains and have support those smaller businesses. We should be all doing that at this time. And Julian, any issues with gold in your drinks?
No, not particularly. Wouldn't do it myself, but what I do love about this tweet is it did remind me of an episode of a previous series of Succession. I don't know if anyone's seen it, where Greg goes out with Tom Wamsgans, and they go out for like a crazy meal, and one of the things they have is like a gold leaf, I think it's gold leaf vodka, it might be gold leaf tequila, one of the two. And then and basically Tom Wamsgans is saying, yeah, this is what you do when you're rich, you do crazy stuff like this. And then he gets up the next day and Greg's like, oh, I think gold leaf hurt my tum-tum or whatever it is. And it's just, it's again, but it's a status symbol and it's there to be ridiculed. It's like, why are you drinking gold leaf? It's crazy. But
Yeah, no one sprinkles diamonds on something to show that they're rich. It makes it harder to chew, but it's exactly the same stupid move.
Crazy.
Elizabeth Taylor did have a perfume called Diamonds that had a real diamond on it, apparently. But it smelt vile.
It wasn't in a vial, it smelled vile, or both, possibly.
At least if you swallow the diamond, there's no nitrate form of that. That will go through you without reacting.
Oh, but it will smart on the way out, wouldn't it? That would not be nice. So where do we go from gold in our boobs?
Let's try and race through that. We're running over a bit, but let's do. We've only got 2 left actually, and it's it's actually one each. It's Steve's one, which is from Sam Coates at Sky. It's the Nadine Dorries WhatsApp story.
Yeah, okay, I'll look at it on the big screen. Yeah, this is the row of the Tory WhatsApp Clean Global Brexit group with over 100 MPs. And there's a bit of a typo there, but it's about the removal of Nadine Dorries after she defended the PM. And then Steve Baker said, declaring enough is enough. There is a strong kind of like, you have no authority in this group moment. But and also, I think it's a trigger warning about clean global Brexit. Because that very much feels like, no longer having the deal with the EU is one thing, but trying to leave the planet, I think, is the ultimate goal of a lot of Tory MPs. And I kind of like the fact that it shows how petty they are. I think we've reached that stage. Like, if ever a government, a party has at least shared power for over a decade, we then get to see an awful lot of the cracks starting to show, and this is one of them, which I very much enjoy. But yeah, the childishness of throwing someone out of a WhatsApp group. Is that what it's come to? Like the old days, you get proper videos of people doing proper speeches, and that would have been your politics. These days, I'm the admin, I'm removing you. And I'm afraid these are the people who are in charge. Disgraceful.
It's a great story, but it also resonates. I mean, have you ever been thrown out of a WhatsApp group?
Me? As if I'd ever be in a WhatsApp group. Why do I need to interact with humans?
I think you've probably got a family one, maybe a close friends one. We're going down.
No, well, no? I mean, sadly, it wasn't just my dad who died of the pandemic, so I've only got one relative left. Oh. So it's been a tough old pandemic for the Allens, brutally. So no, there's not one there. There is a WhatsApp group on the street that I live in. And I've never posted anything to it. I was added to it and was too scared to visibly show up as leaving. So it just sits around being muted.
So that's probably the question more, is like, would you leave? Because I've muted a lot of my WhatsApp groups because I can't keep up with it. Mentally, I find it quite stressful. And so I just mute them because I'm too cowardly to leave. I just don't want them to know I've left.
It's easy to buy a new phone.
And just lose it. Pretend
just leave the old one, just ping it away, put it on silent, buy a new one, a new number. They'll never track you down.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, I just mute things, but I don't. It's not because I want to leave. I just don't want it pinging. But then occasionally I think, actually, I do want to look at the street WhatsApp and ask a question about the bins or something. And then, I don't find it super stressful. I'm not sure that I've ever been chucked out of a group, but then. Why would I be in a group with Tory MPs? I've got, needless to say, as I say about everybody we ever mentioned, I've got previous with Nadine Dorries. She and I have been on a number of shows together. And she is extremely vain and obsessed with her appearance, is my experience of her. Like before you go live, she's just like, oh, hang on, let me change into my heels. And what does everyone think about my hair? And can I have more hairspray? And then afterwards, she immediately tweets about whether she looked hot or not on This Morning. And I'm always like, I thought it was quite more important to discuss provision of reproductive rights for women around the world, but no, sure, nice shoes.
You can discuss reproductive rights of women, with a bit lippy on, surely.
You can,
yes.
But I prefer to be, a hairy feminist and get the job done.
Is that, have you ever had a show title called The Hairy Feminist?
You don't have to be hairy feminist, yeah.
I've never done it as a show title. I've used various abuse I've had on the internet as show titles. Lefty Cockwomble I wrote was a show based on what people were tweeting about me when I was on Question Time. I don't leave that stuff unused. There's a really nice audio clip of Jeremy Vine on his radio show reading out things that messages had been sent to him after I'd been on as a guest, where he just goes, "Ultra feminist scum." In frankly, what sounds like an impersonation of Stephen Allen, but I assure you that was Jeremy Vine. I'll be back.
What I find fascinating is, and I'm sure you've had this, guys, is if there are trolls, they always go, they always think they're sort of hitting a nerve, and they say, oh, calls herself a comedian. Oh, didn't make me laugh. It's the funniest thing they've ever said. It's always like, look, mate, yeah, well, we are comedians. That's our job. And you sit there.
Yeah, if I'm not funny, the fact that I've made a professional living doing this for 17 years is incredible. I mean, that is, whoa.
Oh, I know. It's all those people that have been giving you money for no reason whatsoever for not.
Yeah, I mean, that's like winning an Olympic gold when you can't actually swim, isn't it? That's amazing. You're splashing around in the shallow end, and they're like, no, you know what? You can have this. I mean, it's brilliant. I'm all for it.
And have you had that, Steve? Have you had anyone telling you that you're not funny? He calls himself a comedian.
Oh, well, I mean, as soon as every episode of The MASH Report or Late Night MASH was on, I eventually stopped looking at Twitter, just because I've put more effort into the protection of my mental health of late than I had done before. But it is still true that it goes absolutely crazy on the internet. Although I did notice when we were on the BBC, the actual episode would go out Thursday or Friday night, depending on which series it was, and there was often a Sunday night repeat. And the Sunday night repeat insults were worse. And I think it was just some sort of Songs of Praise kind of hangover crowd that they were watching the telly, hadn't turned it off yet, and then just got stuck into hating us. But you're right. I mean, it's a go-to line that they all say, like, you're not funny. And it's as if you're going to listen to that one person saying it when you've just had 400 people laughing and one person saying you're not funny. I'm a fan of statistics. So that alone means I don't have to listen to your complaint.
I'm looking for a comedian who's a fan of statistics. That's my brand of humour. I'm like, that should be your next show title. I'll use ultra feminist scum or whatever, but I want Stephen Allen is a fan of statistics. I'll be in the front of the queue.
And rules.
Yeah. I love rules and I love statistics. And do you know what? The data backs me up. That's what I like about that.
I just love that it's so simple. I love rules. I love statistics. This is a very simple living. Kate, I know that you've had a lot of obviously a lot of trolling on the internet, and it's been horrible and horrific and hilarious sometimes, obviously, because you haven't managed to use it in material. Do you think that's down to you being a woman, or is it like your politics? Is it being a feminist? Is it
I think the sort of whole vagina opinion combination doesn't sit well with a large tranche of the Twitterati. I was at a conference, this is years ago. It's actually a sort of an event for women getting into writing for TV and radio and things like that. And one of the other guests was Caroline Criado Perez, the brilliant feminist who got the statue of a suffragette in Trafalgar, in Parliament Square, and got Jane Austen on the banknote. Brilliant feminist campaigner. And we were being asked by somebody in the audience about internet abuse, and I'm being asked that question of like, what is at the heart of it? And Caroline asked me a question which I thought was genius. She said, the sexual violence, rape threats that you get, how many of them mention your vagina? And I thought about it and I was like, oh, none. They're all about my mouth and my throat. And if that doesn't tell us everything we need to know, that it's not about, what it's about is silencing that voice. It's about trying to silence women. I'm a bit through the looking glass on it these days.
But hey, trolls out there, you can keep doing that. We're not going to be silent. We're still going to be talking, people.
Yeah,
carry on your work.
We've had one troll so far from one of the clips. I don't know if you saw that comment of like, oh, the worst people from your office Christmas party. Apparently that's what we are. And I'm sticking that on the flyer. I'm sticking that on the flyer one day.
It was someone's tweet we mentioned.
There wasn't a Christmas party because they're illegal, and you should have stuck to the rules. I mean, that's just the definition of crime. That is.
It's because it's someone that we use their tweet.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, I've just been told that these so-called comedians have used my tweet. Wow. I think he was secretly quite proud that we'd used the tweet, but wanted to sort of dissociate himself from us.
I've got a minor thrill from a minor bit of trolling. Right, so we're on the last tweet. So, Kate, it's yours. I so need this explaining.
So this is a tweet from the handle is at Chlorofem. Her name is Amy. She's a feminist campaigner, I think over in the US, and she's just put together a little compilation of what she describes as my most hated genre of family photos, and it's families who have done a Christmas photo in which the female members of the family have been tied up and had their gaffer tape put across their mouths, and then the caption is finally peace on earth, which I think amazingly ties in exactly to what I was just saying about how there is a tranche of the population out there who just wants women silenced, and plays into this idea that women should speak less or should say less, or that women have less right to express themselves, and when women speak it is annoying, irritating, infuriating, somehow unacceptable. And it's really interesting that she could find so many of these. And so I thought we'd just get it up there so that everybody knows that that it's not funny. It's as funny as a Louis C.K. special, people. And these so-called comedians, I mean, they call us so-called comedians, and yet here are these pricks gaffer taping their wife's mouth shut for a Christmas card. Oh, right. Yeah, right. Very funny.
Well, you know, I think that's the last tweet for us so-called comedians to kind of bring.
Go and get our gaffer tape back on.
Get our gaffer tape out and put it over our faces. Yeah, I mean, we've covered a lot of very big things, and you know, I don't know. Julian hasn't had any tweets. Have you?
No. I mean, I can't. I mean, most of the ones that I mean, if anyone wants,
I would like you to sort of end on a, you know, just something light-hearted, you know, in case they tell us like, you know, we get like trolled again.
Well, yeah, I mean, for anyone watching that, you know, all our tweets are under the. Well, they're obviously all on the timeline, but they're on the likes tab, the ones that were lined up for tonight. No, there were just a few. I mean, I actually chose really sort of throwaway ones. There's this one from.
I've been thinking it was all really relevant and important and all kind of tied together. Kate's disappeared. Kate's gaffer taped her own mouth here.
I hope you're out there somewhere, Kate. I'm sorry, we have run over, so I don't know if that's the issue. So, sorry, were you asking me about my tweets or?
Yes.
Yeah. I just chose like really 3 quick ones here. Chuck Thomas, who is the digital guy at Talk Radio. Some crotches in a bin. It's a Christmas miracle. Which I like that one.
Funny, actually.
And there was also, this is fantastic, from Trout Eyes. Hey, this is a card section for Nans. It goes Nan, Nana, Nanny, Nana, and Nanny. And to which they've added Hey Jude. So obviously, if you know the chorus for Hey Jude, you know that is absolutely.
Na.
I love that. That goes on for like 7 minutes, but it was written for a Julian, so you know, it's like my national anthem essentially. And this one, I love this. Matt Littler is a film guy works for a VR production company. He spotted the game for the Queen's Gambit. Well, he spotted this, which goes Netflix, the Queen's Gambit, the board game. To which he's pointed out, you mean chess, right?
Is it chess?
It's like, what? That is mind blowing.
Is it
brilliant.
chess?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Oh my god, I've got to get that.
Have you seen that?
Well, you love the TV show, so.
It'd be amazing if you buy it and inside it's charades, right?
Yeah.
Like, whoa.
Yeah, I'll be really disappointed. What a great show, guys.
Yeah, amazing show. Really
honestly,
enjoyed that.
really good stuff. I'm so glad we came together. Thank you so much, Kate Smurthwaite and Steve N. Allen, who only found. It's Steve N. Allen. It made sense. It's like you're Will.i.am before Will.i.am was.
Yeah.
Steve N. Allen. All these years I've known you. Thank you so much.
I thought you were a double act to start with, Steve and Allen.
Yeah.
I keep sending the invoices for 2.
Like
they don't pay them.
Johnson, you know, terrible vaudeville.
Yeah.
You know.
Thank you for doing our last show, I believe, for 2021 now.
Yeah.
And I'll let Julian tell you about the future shows that we've got coming up.
Well, I can't do that because we haven't done a lineup for them. But what I can do is ask Steve and Kate, please, will you plug something that you are hopefully doing in the near future, whether it's live or online or whatever.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Go on, Steve.
I'm doing a week of drive time shows on Union Jack Radio on DAB. Starts tomorrow, so I'm back doing some radio like that, which is quite nice.
Yes, that's right. I saw that. Brilliant stuff. You can follow Steve at Mr. Stephen Allen on Twitter. We're just showing that on the screen now. Kate, what are you up to?
Well, yeah, I have my online video series, News at Kate. Just go to katesmouthwaite.co.uk and you'll see the info there. And I will be touring my show, hopefully. Last Mayor of Fihaloi, I've got it in North London, 9th of January, and South London, 4th of February, and hopefully some more dates as things firm up, / the pandemic turns out to have all been a big hoax. Whichever happens first. And it turns out that Bill Gates did it anyway, and he's going to stop it now or something. Hopefully we'll be touring some more in the new year. But everything, as always, is on katesmurthwaite.co.uk. Yeah.
And Martin's asked Steve, and obviously follow Kate at Cruella1, which you see on screen here. Steve, more comic solving problems as well. Is that happening?
It is, but in the new year. We're not doing any more for the rest of this one. But yeah, our weekly topical comedy show, Tuesday nights at 9, comic solving problems. And we've got to, because I've carpeted the damn shed. I put all this stuff in so we could do comic solving problems in its own actual mini studio stuff. And then we took a break for Christmas. So now I have the best lit shed in this entire neighbourhood.
Wow. She's put it on the WhatsApp group.
Shed.
Yeah. So as far as the next show, I mean, I'm aiming to come back on the 9th of January, hopefully Sunday the 9th of January, line up to be confirmed. And we are going to go live in February with the Bill Murray with Comic Solving Problems, a live venture. Again, more details of those as they come. We're literally doing the legwork on that. But yeah, just remains to say thank you so much to our two fantastic guests tonight. Please stay back with us in the Zoom room or the green room. And thanks, of course, to Gila. And just a wave goodbye to all our streamers. Thank you so much for watching.
And Merry Christmas,
and
everyone
Merry
out there.
Christmas.
Merry
I
Christmas.
nearly forgot. Cheers, guys. Merry Christmas.